Welcome to the May Meetup of Princeton Cloud Solution Architect. So today we have a special guest, Saleem Sufi, who's going to talk about business strategy and leadership. So with that, I will hand over to Saleem, and could you introduce yourself briefly, and then you can continue to talk.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Umar, for inviting me. It's a small group, so let's try to keep it a little bit informal, be comfortable, keep it more interactive for best learning. And my little background, for those of you who are not aware, that I spent my life in corporate. My last job was as the CFO for a global company in New York. And training and learning and coaching was always my passion. So at one point of time, 3 years ago actually, I decided to leave my corporate job behind and start doing my own training business, which is called Mecca CFO Academy. So now I'm doing this full time. I only focus on two main course areas, leadership and strategy. Because that is where I realize that there is not much help available. And a lot of people need it, but they really struggle on their own. And that is what my niche really has very well established. So the topic here, like understanding business strategy. Can I stand up? Is this still camera focus? I feel comfortable standing when I'm speaking. So this presentation I put together, it will not take more than an hour, I guess, depending upon the interaction. It's related to mainly strategy. And I'm sure all of you, or a lot of you have corporate experience, so you know what a strategy is. I'm not going into the basic definitions. But strategy is something which is considered as a secret within the boardrooms. Only CEOs can talk about it. Only the people in the higher level of the organization could deal with it. It's not for ordinary people or middle level manager. That's a myth. And that is why you see that in business organization, normally you will find the formal functions like accounting, finance, marketing, sales, logistics, planning. But not every organization has strategy function. Few organizations have strategy functions because many times CEO and the senior management think that this is our area, we can handle it. So my purpose of this small presentation here is to break that myth. Because in my opinion, strategy is a very simple, understandable, common sense subject. Everybody can learn. If you have spent your life in corporate, 10, 15 years experience, you are good enough to really develop this expertise and make your point to the senior management too. Look, when we work in corporate, so this is not for everyone, but everybody has the potential to reach to the top, to work at the C-suite. Everybody has that potential if you have survived in the corporate for 10, 15 years. So this is a low-hanging opportunity we could make ourselves available for. And the way I'm going to present this, I have prepared a small case study. It's very interesting. So once you go through that case study, you will fully comprehend the idea of the strategy, and particularly we are going to talk about value creation. So in strategy, there are different school of thoughts, different backgrounds and frameworks. I'm very much sold on the value creation part, which is also, by the way, the most popular subject today, value creation. And what makes me entitled to talk about this strategy, basically when I did my MBA, I almost flunked in my strategy course. 1 semester, 6 month duration, and I couldn't really understand what strategy is. But later on, after I did my academic education, I read a lot, learned on my own a lot. And I think you are familiar with Jim Rohn, everybody?
Excuse me, Zaki, can you adjust the screen a little?
Or move the camera back,
Projector
back.
Projector a little, yeah. Move
So Jim Rohn said,
it closer. Yeah.
closer?
Yeah, closer. Yes, good.
Formal education will make you a living and self-education will make you a fortune. How true is it? Unfortunately, it's not about the third world, it's not about the Middle East. Everywhere I see that our education system is lagging behind. Now what, Omar, you were saying about the things we need to learn earlier in our life, I think emotional intelligence should be taught in high school or even middle high school. Self-development should be taught in middle high school and high school level. That is where it starts. And what happens that we learn the type of the subjects, even we never use in our life, and we start our career. And it starts usually well if you have a master's or good certification, but somewhere down the road, when you are touching the middle of the career, also middle of life, there are more and more problems you start to face, and then you need more of these things, soft skills, than really the academic knowledge or academic backgrounds. So what I did after starting my career, I developed a passion for books. That is still my best way to learn and develop myself. So today I have 700 books in my home library on business, strategy, and personal development. And I keep adding and keep reading. These are the 18 books on strategy only, which I have used to develop this program. So I'm not going to teach you the whole program. This whole program is 12 weeks long, which Omar has gone through. But it will give you some glimpse at what we talk about in this program. And the challenge for many people in the corporate is that people want to learn, people want to develop themselves, but they don't have time. There is so much pressure in the corporate that don't have time, even not for their family, they are not able to really create a good balance. So how do we solve this problem? They could go to Harvard for 2 weeks strategy program. They could go to executive MBA program. They could do anything else, but it's not practical for someone who is already working at the middle level and so much pressure from the work, not finding time even to create a good work-life balance. It's not practical. So based on that, my approach was that how could I really address that problem and help people with that? So this is my solution, that look, you don't have to go through 18 books. Yeah, you do need to read few books to get the flavor, but 18 books, and not everything from these books, but the main relevant content which is required for your corporate journey, I have translated into this program. And if you go through the 12 weeks, you would learn most of that, so much that you could do a strategy job as a strategy expert. The other thing I did also, I came across a quote from Peter Drucker that was 4 years ago. And Peter Drucker in 1997, he said that there is no future of college and universities. Future is remote education. 1997, people were not even very familiar what internet is. And I came across this quote and I said, shame on us. We are in 2014 at that time, and we are even not really doing as much as we do. So I said, let me take a challenge. It starts with yourself. And at that time, I really personally myself did not much believe into online education or training. But I said, let me experiment. So I created a program of leadership for 12 weeks again. And by that time, I have enough large following that people would follow me, whatever I offered. And I offered that program. And it went very well. That established my belief and faith into online. And since then, I'm doing more and more online. So in this program, this is also, I don't do that in classroom. Of course, I'm doing here for a special purpose. But I don't do in classroom. We do weekly online strategy sessions for 2 hours every weekend, and that is how we cover it. And I think Omar could tell you how was his experience. So far I have trained almost 150 senior corporate professionals with that program, and feedback, I would say that 98% feel that this is what they needed, this is what they did not expect, but they got it. So at least that thing is working. So let's talk about this presentation here. So these are just to give you a flavor that what type of contents are there. And again, these are not my contents. There are some ideas from my side, but I'm a learner basically. My job is really to learn, secure all the sources where the good information is, put together in a meaningful manner, meaningful framework, and offer to the people to make it easier for them. So if you have time, you could go on your own and develop that knowledge. So I want to start with a broader view of the business world, because all of you have spent some time in corporate in some capacity. So what has changed in the last 20 years, maybe 20, 30 years, is the change in the business model. And I would say that if we look back, and maybe the turn of the century was really the dividing time when many things changed from the old paradigm to the new paradigm. So in terms of the business model, when I was studying in my MBA program again, the first course which I covered in finance and accounting was the Introduction to Business Finance. And that book said, the purpose of every business for profit is to maximize the wealth of shareholders. That was the exact wording. The purpose of business is to maximize the wealth of shareholders. And that was a long time ago. I got shocked. I was doing MBA, preparing myself to do a startup corporate career. I said, this is what we are going to get into. All the employees, all the customers, all the suppliers, all the people are working for a bunch of people called shareholders and help them maximize their wealth. That idea did not sit well at that time in my mind. Corporate sector got a little bit matured, and they, instead of calling maximizing the wealth, they started to call it shareholders' value. Better term, but remain the same meaning. Still today, the purpose of a business technically is to create wealth for shareholders. But model was pretty simple until end of the last century. If you have capital, what you need to start a business, if you have capital, that was the first requirement. With the capital, you could establish some infrastructure like plant, equipment, fixed assets, and create some products, inventory, sales office, warehouses, and sell them, and probably people will buy it, and you will create some profit, and shareholders would be happy. Pretty straightforward, based on capital, right? Now, if you look at there are still businesses running on that model, not many, but if you look at today's successful business models, it has completely changed. Now, today's business model, they do not depend on capital. Capital is a commodity today. Anybody has a good business idea, they will go to angel investor, venture capitalist, banks are sitting on the $1 billion of cash and get some money. That's not a problem. Where is start is here. You need to have the talented people, right people. If you look at the most successful businesses, their biggest resource is their people. Companies like Microsoft, Apple, Google. So that's a starting point. And not only the people, you also have to enable them. How do you enable them? You provide technology. You empower them. You provide the right culture. You provide the right leadership. So that becomes the critical starting point for any business. Once you have enough critical mass of that, next thing you focus is your customer segment. Who are the people you want to really serve? And there you started to talk about relationship, branding, creating loyalty, creating education for them. And the focus of most businesses today, if they are successful, is customer value, creating customer value. So where is shareholders' value? Well, shareholders have understood very well nowadays that to get their value, shareholders' value, you need to first create customer value. So companies like Apple, companies like Google, other successful businesses, what they are doing, they are totally focused on customer value creation. Why people line up night before to get the new version of iPhone, Apple phone? Because there is customer value. Not for everyone, but who are the die-hard core fans of Apple, for them there is a lot of value. So that is a significant change in the business world, from the old business model to this new business model. And please stop me if you have any questions or comments.
So are we going to have the video later?
Yeah.
Sorry?
I talked about the video, availability of video.
Yeah, we're recording.
Okay.
We're recording.
Okay, so we are talking about value creation. As I said, that my focus, the focus of my program or focus of my teaching for strategy is value creation. So what is value creation? This simple diagram would give you a clear idea. So it starts with employees, the most important stakeholder for many businesses. And as I said, simply starting with employees is not enough. You need to empower them, you need to engage them, you need to enable them. How do you do that? You provide systems, technology, structure, processes to help them deliver their performance. And at the same time, they also need good culture, environment, and leadership. Three things combined create good employee value to deliver to customers, right? So customer get a lot of value. Customer only get the value because these resources are able to provide that value. Once the customer has a lot of value, customer would be, what is customer value? Is customer happiness. If how many people use iPhone or Apple phone, Apple products? Okay, majority of them, right? Why do you use Apple?
User experience.
Experience?
The brand name.
Brand name? Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Apple myself. And I have been using iPhone since I think 2008 or 2009. At one point of time, I heard about Galaxy, Samsung Galaxy, and I tried to use new things. So I switched to Galaxy. I used that for 4 or 5 months. It didn't appeal me. I switched back to iPhone, and since then I never questioned should I switch to another brand. Now I declare myself as a hardcore, loyal fan of Apple. I have every product in my home, not for me, but for my family. Now, so I was anticipating very impatiently about the launch of iPhone 10, right? So the big buzz about it. And everybody was thinking that this is something new, they never used it. And I was one of them. And the event where they launched the phone, I think that was also in the history of the corporate world, no event ever happened with the product launch ceremony at that level. That is the hype they created in the media, right? And I ordered it with a wait time. And then I got a chance to really look at some technical comparison between iPhone 10 and some other products, especially Galaxy Notebook 4. I saw that myself, I went through it, and I was shocked because technical functionality of iPhone 10 or Galaxy Notebook 4 were more or less the same, although the perception among the people were very different, right? So the point here is that it's not only about the functionality of the products, it's about your perceived value. What is your perception? When you buy a product, why people would buy 40,000 Rolex watch? To watch the time? No. The people would spend that money, they will say this is their lifestyle. They deserve it. It's the perceived value, all the luxury items, right? So customer value is not about creating products which they like or which they use. 5 years ago, my daughter was going to college from after high school, and she only wanted to have MacBook. And I could tell you she has no idea about the Macintosh operating system, but she only wanted MacBook because she was a little shy to show a PC or traditional laptop to their friends. That's the ultimate success of a brand. When you use the brand not for the functionality, but for the image, that's our ultimate success. Apple is already there. Starbucks is already there. Why people pay 3-4 times coffee price? Yeah, there is a taste. People say, oh, I like the taste. But it's experience, it's image, it's brand, it's perceived value. So one of the very important critical part of today's successful businesses is creating the brand or perceived value in the mind of the customer. Because if you don't create that, they will not buy your product, they will not be as successful as others are. And Samsung and Apple's examples are clearly explained there. Now Samsung is no less technical or technological company than Apple, but Apple has done a fantastic job of marketing, brand promotion. They have created the most valuable brand in the world. And Samsung has competitive products, but really not in terms of the image or the value. Now, when you able to create value, customer value to that level, not only the functionality and technicality, but an image and perception, you have not customers, you have fans. Apple has fans, Starbucks has fans. And once you have fans, selling becomes a lot easier. People will pay 3 to 4 times the coffee price. People will line up. My daughter, every year she needs a new iPhone. Although it's more or less the same, we all know it, right? Now, despite I went through the comparison of the Galaxy Notebook 4 and iPhone 10, that was something new for me, but I did not regret it buying iPhone 10 because Apple brand had so much engraved in my mind that I feel really proud to use Apple products, and that is a success. Now, shareholders, where they are basically the ultimate recipient of all the value, right? But they also become smart. They become much more patient. I said, okay, we know that all these value in due course of time will come to us. So we are not in a hurry. In fact, if it is longer, it will come better. Today, where the Apple's brand is not achieved overnight. They have spent years and decades to create that brand. And now, so life cycle of creating value is much longer. Now compared to the financial statements where you look at the 12 months or quarter, the real cycle is very different. Real cycle is much longer. So you need to have a long-term perspective to see and create value for customers or shareholders. So this is even a further explanation of the value creation process. 2 principles here. Number 1, create shareholders value through creating customer value. That's a very clear formula for many businesses. 2 things. How do you create customer value? Create high quality product and services customer want or customer would like to use it. That's one thing only. Second point is to sell at a price which will create profits, because profit will go to shareholders. And that is where many companies struggle. Now, which one is more challenging? Creating products or selling at a price? Anybody?
Both are.
Yeah, both are challenging, but which one do you think is more challenging? Yeah.
to go a little bit on the loose on the quality.
Which one you think would be more challenging?
Selling at a price is more difficult.
Yeah. Because here, the simple thing is that you could create any compelling products as long as you add resources, hire the best people in the world, bring the most valuable resources, the finest equipment available. You would create very compelling product. Could you sell at a price which is acceptable to the buyers? So it's not only about creating compelling products which customers love. Customer would not buy those products. There are hundreds of examples. There are very good compelling products, but they are commercially failure because the perceived value customers have in their mind, the price does not match. So many times you go to shopping, electronics or clothing or whatever, and you look something and you say, I really like this product, I really like this clothing, I really like this watch, I really like this electronic item. The price is too high because it's not matching with your perceived value. You have a different perception. So the businesses who are able to create very compelling technological product but not able to sell, they are not doing a good job on the creating perceived value. And again, going back to the successful business model, Apple has done a fantastic job.
So I think what you're talking about is fine, but what about the third scenario where there's actually not much competition? So I'll give you an example.
Monopolies.
I'm sorry?
Monopolies?
Kind of monopoly. Let's Starbucks. There's not another chain similar to that level. You get Dunkin' Donuts, but they're a different caliber. Okay. So Starbucks, a lot of people go there because they don't have any other place to go. So they'll just drink that coffee. Maybe it's not the best that they had or want, but they don't have another choice. You know, Dunkin' Donuts is at a different level. So at that case, it's maybe not the product itself, it's the,
Perceived value.
and monopoly.
Let me tell you my personal experience. Personally, I like McDonald's coffee. $1, any size. Good taste, I like it. And whenever I need it, I would go to McDonald's, buy that $1 coffee. But if I'm accompanied by you or my executive friends, I'm a little hesitant to go to McDonald's because here is my image, my corporate image is involved, right? I don't like Starbucks coffee, but I would compel to go to Starbucks store along with those friends and buy Starbucks coffee. It's not coffee. It's the again, it's the ultimate success of a brand. When people started to think that this is my lifestyle, I need to buy Starbucks because this is part of my lifestyle, that's ultimate success.
Sure, but in the case of Starbucks, that's what I'm saying, there's not enough another competition or many other competitions.
I agree with you, there is an element of it. It's
Right.
not entirely one scenario. In some cases, yes, if there is no nearby coffee stores, then you would buy Starbucks whether you like it or not. But in an overall global view, it's highly competitive market. Not only in US, everywhere else.
So the concept of bringing up the customer value before anything, is it applicable to all kinds of business in the world?
Different categories react differently.
Okay.
So branding, especially when you attach something with your personal, normally the personal items you use, for example, watches, clothing, perfumes, you create attachment. Marketers know it very well.
Okay.
Marketers are very smart, and this is part of our emotions, that we create an emotional attachment with those items. If you are a corporate buyer in a B2B environment, there are no emotions. You are looking for the best deal, right, and good functionality. But personally, women, they want to buy jewelry, it's very, very emotional.
Yes.
So different categories behave differently when it comes to the personal perceived value or personal brand or image.
So how do you categorize and
Depending upon the industry and the category of
how much percentage of the business those categories fall under this category?
There is no fixed formula. As I said, this model could be very much different for industrial products, B2B model, and B2C could be different. But principles remains the same.
Okay.
These principles would remain the same for any product you want to market, B2C or B2B.
Brian, you want to go first?
I just had an example, a little bit more extreme than Starbucks, which would be like Comcast cable TV. No choice, especially
Yeah.
if you don't live in a place where there's, and I guess Blockbuster. So I used to work at Blockbuster. No more Blockbuster. And so I don't know if you're going to talk about this, but everything is changing so fast right now that like in media strategy is more like reactive rather than proactive. I think it's rooted in leadership values, things that are important, seeing a big picture, lifting your head up and looking around to see well, what are my options kind of thing. But I don't know if you're gonna talk about that today, maybe this is the right place to do it, but,
So you are absolutely right. Again, as I said, that at one end is the monopolistic environment, other hand market, open market or capitalism, and in between there are a lot of scenarios. Now, somehow in certain industries, like cable is a fantastic example, they have dominated. They have basically shared the locality. This is for you, this is for me, this is for you, this is for me. And that is how they dictate their prices, dictate whatever they want. And I personally love marketing, open market system, capitalism, because everything is transparent, it's purely based on the competition and performance. So why Blockbuster was evaporated? Because there was better options available for customers. It's all about customer experience. When there was no alternative available, customer was happy to go to the Blockbuster stores, rent those DVDs and cassettes and play them and return them. That was a good experience. But as soon as the Netflix experience was available, it was no more good, and ultimately it's history. Yes.
The example of Starbucks, the reason they have a monopolistic value at this time is because they've beaten the others. There were others from time to time. People tried to compete with them. They just had the high quality product and the experience. Both of those, and therefore now.
And what do you
both
think?
of those,
What is the reason of success of Starbucks? Is
their
the
marketing,
taste of the
Customer
coffee
value.
or flavor of the coffee?
Customer value.
Oh, those two, they're not bad coffee.
Actually,
It's not like they cannot sell bad product.
Yeah.
The product is high quality also.
I would say that brand equity, for lack of a better term, but so my daughter works there now. She's trying to get a job, being in a professional position. So we'll see how long she stays there. I know she's getting benefits. She has a part-time job, but she's getting benefits. They help them buy a car. So there's employee satisfaction going on there. Happy employees, people like to go in, it's a local environment. But also, there's a sense of fairness principles. So they sell coffee that's called fair trade, so that the people growing the coffee can sustain that business. They're not out there beating them over the head with a baseball bat to get the best price and suppressing their humanity basically through forced slave labor because they control the distribution system of the coffee. So honestly, I would pay more money for a business that plays by the rules.
Right.
And has a great product than
So
another
you said
business.
you would pay more money, right? Would everybody say that? Probably not, right? I'm happy to pay the current prices, I would not pay additional price. The problem is that people are very different in their thinking and approach. Human mind is quite mysterious. Two intelligent people look at the same thing and one gives different views, other gives completely different views, right? That's human mind. And that is the challenge to the marketer. How do they appeal? So first of all, they try to do a segmentation. That okay, my product is not for everyone, because I cannot satisfy or make everybody happy. So I will only work with a corporate executive, for example, that becomes a customer segment. But even in that segment, you will find people coming with different point of views. So they try to create different values. Like someone is very happy with the taste and flavor of Starbucks. Someone, like you said, their policies, their principles, the thing they claim is much more appealing. I would pay even more price, right? There are other people who will say, well, I like to go to the stores and sit over there for 2 hours. I love that, right? So different people, and they try to balance this approach to maximize the value to the largest customer segment. That's the challenge. So imagine that in the strategy of business management, there is no exact science. There are no exact rules. There are some principles, but these principles also change over a period of time. Based on the when environment change, it is commonly said that strategy is permanent for the rest of the life of the business. Well, if you remember, Bill Gates at one point of time, I think 20 years ago, he said, oh no, we will never make hardware. We are software company Microsoft. What they are doing today. Because rightly so, environment change, competition change, and they had to do it to survive. So things will change.